Hey, how's it going? I am Recon18. Today I am doing another video for Rainbow Six Extraction. This is going to be a guide on how to and what options to choose in the gear slot. Every operator gets access to the same gear tech, and as they introduce new crisis events in this game, you will see additional items added to the gear slots. So far, we've seen the auto turret and the rush pistol added to the game since launch. The auto turret came with the spillover crisis event, and then rush pistol came with the nightmare fog event. So as the game continues to update, we will show you new gear as it is introduced. Now, there's a structure to this video, and I want to show you all about that. But before we get started, I want to make sure you're subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and commenting if you like what you see here. It helps me immensely, and it makes me smile. And if you don't subscribe to the channel, I'm going to flush some dinosaur nuggets down the toilet, just for you. So make sure to hit that sub button and notification if you want to be alerted to new videos as I upload them. So, structure to the video, simple. We're going to do a little bit of a walkthrough on some of these don't require an in-game demonstration. They're really straightforward and really simple, and then some of them will, and we'll show you a few of those in some in-game footage and then talk about those in depth. So let's start with the Recon drone. The Recon drone is one of the first items that you get access to. Now, keep in mind, these are unlocked as you progress in the game, so you're not going to have access to all of them right away. And you're going to have to unlock them in time and over the progression throughout the game. Now, the other thing I will mention is that your gun automatically has an attachment with a blue light on it, which will, at the beginning of the game, you automatically get it. It attaches to all of your guns, and it will let you see, slightly in-game through some of these soft walls. And if there's an Archean like directly on the other side of it, it will kind of vaguely highlight them. It's not super reliable, and I don't recommend you rely on it too much, but it is a good way to start the game and get to familiarize yourself and learn and grow with it. And then when you reach a certain point, you're going to get the react laser, which you see almost everybody who plays the game use. It removes the sprawl and slowly starts to get rid of it. Everybody will access that at a certain level, and then that automatically attaches to your gun. You can switch back and forth between the blue light and the flashlight to match certain circumstances. There are two tabs here, React and then Crisis. As the Crisis events unlock, you'll see these start to fill out as well. We're going to do some in-game demonstrations on both of these, but the XR drone, or the Recon drone, is a first level sort of recon. It does not automatically, so here, let me just read it for you. It says, remotely gather intelligence by manually scanning objectives, Archeans, and supply cases. Drone recharges every 30 seconds while disabled or can be resupplied at a React Tech case. So if you lose it, you can resupply it. This does not automatically scan. You won't get that until you get to the XR Recon drone, which is a direct like-for-like replacement. Once you have the XR drone, you don't need to use a Recon drone anymore. We'll talk about that in a minute here. The next sort of gear slot that you end up with is the body armor, which is a really, really good option for a number of different scenarios. I highly recommend you use the body armor mostly if you're using low armor operators like IQ or Vigil. In a scenario where you don't have a Rook, or you don't have a Doc or a healer class, and you don't have the revive kit yet unlocked, it's a really good way to sort of start the game and learn to take less damage. It's a really good first tier option. Now, I will also demonstrate if this armor is going to reduce your damage by 20%, and you're going to, in the game, there's automatically one down, no matter what, and assuming you're in a group. And if you don't have that body armor, you're automatically going to, then after that first down, you're going to go KO. Now that's different in a solo incursion. You will automatically go KO if you go down in normal circumstances. But with this body armor, what it allows you to do in a group, it will go to knock, down but not out, rather than a KO, which means you've lost the incursion and the mission's over. So this is a really good option as a safety net. Now, once you've gone down and you're rezzed, that body armor is consumed, meaning you will then have to refresh it. This is essentially the same thing as Rook's armor, except that Rook's armor reduces it by quite a bit. Now, those two do not stack, so keep that in mind, unless you are Rook. They do stack for Rook, but not for other players. At least at the timing of this video, that may change in the future. But so think of this sort of as a like for like replacement for Rook. And as such, you don't want to really necessarily bring this if you have a Rook. Because you're going to get it from his armor anyway. And so as we progress through this video, you're going to want to keep in mind that most of these are going to either have some level of utility or they're going to be replaced by some specific operator. And we'll talk about more of that in just a second. So the body armor is a really good option. Just remember that if you go down and then get res, it's going to be consumed just like a Rook armor, and you'll need to then refresh it with a React Tech box. That's a very important thing to remember. A lot of people don't realize that all of these tech pieces, if you consume them, they will automatically be recharged by a React Tech box, in addition to giving you grenades or whatever explosive you're bringing. So revive kits are probably my number one option, especially in early Maelstrom progress. If you're learning the game, if you're trying to play with randoms, revive kit's going to save you so many times. When you use the revive kit, it essentially will put you in knock every single time rather than KO. When you get knocked down to DBNO, you can revive yourself one time, or as many times as you need to, your group can revive you. Now, if you consume that revive, it's no longer there, and you have to refresh it just like body armor. But if you don't, and your friends come and get you and revive you, you can go down any number of times that you want to. There is a theoretical point at which you will die faster, because each time you go down, it's going to tick your health down faster, and then you'll go to KO. And if you're surrounded by enemies when you're not, there's a chance you'll go down and your friends can't get to you. So just balance that out. But this is going to be the number one option, I think, in most cases for most players. This is going to be the tech slot that you're going to want to use. And I definitely recommend this as you're learning the game and in very broad-based circumstances. Now, next we have what I would argue is the weakest gear slot. There's almost never a circumstance in which this is going to benefit you. This is the ammo satchel, which will deploy you with 50% more ammo. In addition to that, you will also gain 50% more ammo from every ammo box. Now, one operator IQ has this as a perk, essentially, 3 extra mags, and then gets more for every box that she picks up. But I think this is pretty much useless for one specific reason. They haven't made ammo scarce enough of a resource to make this a viable option. I would say not even just almost. In every single circumstance, there's going to be a better option for you. And I almost never recommend you bring the ammo satchel unless you're doing like maybe veteran mode, or there's some very niche like challenge that you're trying to accomplish with like limited ammo boxes or something. I don't know. There is just no world in which this is a good option. And I think it's until they make ammo more scarce, this is going to be the lowest of the low, and one that you're never going to want to use. Now, I will say the reason for that is most of the time that I do Maelstrom, I play with randoms, and there's enough ammo boxes that I often end the incursions at level 9 with ammo being the least concerning, assuming that you're picking up boxes along the way and finding them and sharing them. There's almost never a circumstance in which I'm going to end the Maelstrom at a diamond level with less than 2,000 bullets. So it's just so prominent as a resource right now at the timing of this video that I just can't see it as a viable option. Now, I can see a world in which they change that, and if they make ammo more scarce, and if they sort of put the pressure on you, that could change. And we'll see what that looks like in the future. All right, so next up, you got the explosive harness, which is a probably top tier choice for most really, really experienced players. This is going to double the number of react explosives that you get, regardless of the type. And this also stacks with gear up. So if you have an operator who deploys with 3 frags and then has gear up, that's going to give them 4. And so with the explosive harness, they're going to get 8. So instead of 3, you get 8. Because of that bonus and because of this harness. Now, that also additionally stacks for every box that you pick up, meaning that if you pick up a box and you have gear up and an explosive harness, you'll go from 8 to 16 with one box. And so you want to kind of keep that in mind as you choose your harnesses or choose your gear slots, is if you have one specific operator that you're bringing that has gear up, this is a really good option to really stack some grenades, and you kind of want to coordinate that with your team and make sure that they are the one picking up a majority of the boxes, because you can end up with 40 C4 in a hurry if you're really careful about it. And that's also going to obviously mean that less of your team is going to have them, but 40C4 on one operator, especially in the hands of Stephen Leviathan, you're going to be fine. So don't worry about that. So Explosive Harness is going to be probably the top level choice for most operators that are really experienced and don't need to worry too much about bringing a revive kit, or in a circumstance where you have like a Doc or a Finka, or especially like a Rook. You're not going to want to bring a revive kit to stack with those because they essentially are those things, and those operators operate like a revive kit, and so you can kind of just expand out and use a different kind of gear tech. So I recommend that in those circumstances mostly. The XR Recon drone is a really, really useful and underrated tool. You only need one in your team, and if you have like a Lion or a Pulse, or to a lesser degree IQ, this is going to make less sense, but this is essentially just going to gather information for your team. The only thing that this thing does not do is scan cloaked Archean, so you want to keep that in mind. And you don't want to stack a bunch of these on top of each other because you only need one of them. You only need one person in your group to scan. You only need one type of intelligence necessarily. And then if you do have that, the amount of intel that you're gathering is going to diminish to the point that it kind of makes this less useful. Now, I can make a case for having a Pulse and a Recon drone on one operator, but I can't really justify having a Recon drone and a Lion in the same group. I think that that is a waste of a gear slot. You can also make a case maybe for IQ and a Recon drone, but I also think that sort of has a little bit of a diminishing return. And if you're bringing scan grenades or something else, Recon drones become less useful. So you want to keep that in mind. You want to coordinate with your team. What are they bringing? What kind of operators do you have? And then use those operators to sort of expand out and maximize your kit. If you don't have an Intel class, or if they're not available in a Recon Maelstrom, bring the XR Recon drone. It's really going to help you out, especially in every subzone in which there is no cloaked Archeans. It's really going to give you all the information that you're going to need. And it's a really, really underrated choice. So just keep that in mind. Use it in that specific way. All right, so next up we have the final like non-crisis event gear slot, and it's the Anabolic accelerant. This is one of the most misunderstood items in the game, and it's kind of a mid-tier option for the most part. I think that there are some niche cases in which this will really benefit you. Essentially, you will, if you drop below 50 white health, meaning, so there's two different types of health in the game, your white health and your blue health. White health is your base health that will regen as you complete missions, and your operators will get healed by other operators completing missions. But blue health is a boosted sort of health that will diminish over time. So if you're at 200 health, you will have 100 white health and 100 blue health. When that blue health gets degraded, and then you start to take white damage, as soon as that damage goes below 50 health, 50 white base damage, you're going to, let's say we're at 30. Slowly but surely, the Anabolic accelerant is going to bring you back up to 50 over time. Now, it's a slow upgrade, and it sometimes is a little inconsistent. And I think that there have been moments in the game where it's been a little bugged. But at the timing of this video, it is fixed. And because it will continually bring you up to 50 health, it's really good for late game Maelstrom runs in which there are no more boxes. You don't have a heal class like Doc or Finka, or a res class like Rook. I think it's a good option if you take a lot of damage, if you're running around, very aggressively, and you're looking for that last little bit of health as you're moving through the final subzones. But it moves so slowly that it often cancels itself out. You'll take damage before it fully heals you back up to 50, and then you're back down, instantly from where you started. So it's sort of a mid-tier option. I don't recommend it most of the time. There are very certain circumstances in which it can make a really good case for it, but especially with the enablement of the React tech, like the Rush pistol, this is less of an option even now since that has been brought into the game. So I don't recommend this. Most of the time you're going to want to either bring a revive or body armor instead. But here is the circumstances in which we're going to see two different new tech that have been added since the launch of this game. With Spillover, we brought the auto turret, which is a very niche defense class style, very underrated option in my opinion. And one specific reason why is I'll read here. It says deployable turret that targets and attacks Archaeans, shoots deadly rounds that inflict damage and stumble effects on Archaeans. Meaning if it hits them, it does not kill them. It'll cause them to kind of disorient it for a second. It's a really good underrated option for some deep like sabotage or shutdown or serial scan options, especially if you're bringing a defensive class like Gridlock or Jaeger, Capitao or Smoke, those defensive like point objective holders. It's a really good option to expand out their kit and make them better. We're going to show you some in-game footage of that here in just a second, so don't worry too much about that. And then with the Nightmare Fog event, we brought the Rush Pistol into the game, which is probably, in my opinion, if you don't bring the Explosive Belt, some of the top tier options for operators these days are rush pistols, especially for slower options, slower operators. This is a stim pistol that shoots stims at yourself or at your teammates, which is huge. And it will apply a movement speed boost and an invulnerability for a short period of time. So essentially the best way to think about this is a, two-shot Finka, essentially, because it will temporarily provide immunity to damage and make you move super, super fast. So it's like an adrenaline rush that you can shoot at your team. And I think that this is one of the most underutilized items in the game. We're going to demonstrate how that works in an in-game footage here in a second. But I would say this is option number 2 if you don't bring a revive kit or an explosive belt. Top tier gun, top tier option here. And I hope that the next couple of gear slots that we see for crisis events will also look something similar to this and very powerful. All right, so that's enough of me talking. Let's look at the these two items, the auto turret and the rush pistol, one after the other in game here. All right, here we are in game with Jaeger. So we're going to demonstrate one of 2 React Tech items in the game. This one is the auto turret, which I think is best utilized in solo incursions, in environments in which you have a lot of things to defend. And particularly well paired with defender ops like Jaeger here, or Gridlock, or Smoke, Capitao. Some of those like area lockdown defenders are going to be really, really important. So here's the basics of it. You can use your React Tech to pull it out, and it takes a moment to deploy. And then it has a sort of like 45-degree conal range that it will detect and automatically shoot any Archaeans. If it does not kill them automatically, it will shoot them again. And then it will stagger them. They'll kind of do this thing where, so it's sort of a way of locking down specific areas. Now, a couple of basic tips, as you can see there, the 45-degree angle does not discriminate. It means that this area right here is the only one, if we had placed it where I just did, this area is the only area that's going to see any kind of coverage because there's an object right here. And so the weak spot becomes like right through here and anything behind it. So you want to place it in a spot where it's not going to necessarily get cornered. And it'll only let you deploy it in certain places. So you kind of want to place it here, and then you can maximize it, let's say with Jaeger, by deploying a drone right here or on the wall so that that's there. And then maybe we can lock down this area so that things are even more well covered. And so as you can see now, we have essentially, this is going to protect the drone or the auto turret, and they have 60 bullets. And so you want to keep that in mind at all times. Now, the really important tip that I can give you is that once you deploy one, if you go and pick up a React Tech box, it will automatically recharge it and you'll get another one. So place these down, go grab your React Tech box, and let's say we want to put one right here too, just so we can cover the tower. You basically lock down an entire half of a room with those objective defenders, which is why it's such an underrated utility. You don't see people use it very often. I think it's underrated, particularly so as it relates to solo incursions and deep Maelstrom defenses like Sabotage Tower or Serial Scan. You just want to also make sure that you note that it does run out of bullets. So when it hits 60 shots, it's going to no longer fire. It can be destroyed, which means if a smasher runs through here and hits it, it can be destroyed. So you want to protect it, make sure that it's covered in a backline sort of defense in very much the same way that you would do that with Jaeger's turrets. Put Gridlock stingers in front of it so that Archaeans can't get to it fast enough, that kind of thing. And it's a really, really good way to sort of lock down an entire area. So that's that. One other major tip that I will give you as it relates to recharging these, if I pick up a React Tech box and we're finished now, and that has, let's say, 45 bullets in it. We can go to the subzone, put down the one that we've recharged in the Reactech box, come back over, and now we have 2 that we can carry forward into the next subzone. So much the same way that you can do that with Jaeger's turrets and ability recharge boxes, you can do that with the turrets. And so you can kind of stack up and maximize the effectiveness of these turrets. And they're really useful in that way, so keep that in mind. All right, so that's that. Let's take a look at the newest addition to the game, which is the Rush Pistol. All right, here we are with Doc, and this is going to be a demonstration of the Rush Pistol. The reason I brought with Doc is for a number of reasons. One, he is the slowest operator in the game at the timing of this video, and before max level, he's super slow, even slower than he is at the moment. This is the way they balance Doc and his heal pistol, essentially, is to make him super slow. But what can you think of? And Doc is a separate entity, and we'll talk more about there's an in-depth guide on how to play Doc and all that stuff. But what I want to talk about today mostly in this demonstration is the Rush Pistol, which was added with the Nightmare Fog event, the most recent Crisis event at the timing of this video. All right, so you can pull out your Rush Pistol, and it works just like, as you can see, it even looks kind of like his Stim Pistol. It's just a different color. So you can, much like you can shoot the Doc heals at your players or at yourself, you can also shoot the Rush Pistol at your friends. I'm not going to do it here because you only get 2 shots, but let's say there's a friend there and he's in trouble. You can shoot him with it, and he will become temporarily immune. Now, let's say he's surrounded by 15 Archeans here. He can then be temporarily immune and run out of there and get out of the way. Same for yourself. So let's demonstrate the basics of this. While you have your Rush Pistol out, just tap the same button that you used to pull it out, and you gain a temporary immunity and an insane speed boost. As you can see, you move quite a bit faster, and your screen will turn blue, and you've got this little honeycomb effect. I think it lasts 15 to 20 seconds or so per shot. So we can basically run halfway across the map and back before it runs out. You can then shoot yourself if you need to continue to escape, whatever it is. It's sort of like the best way to think of it is a mini Finka button, and you can literally use it on any operator. It's probably one of the most underrated items in the game. It might be the best single item in the game in terms of gear slot. A lot of that just depends on circumstances and what you're trying to do, but it's a really, really good option for players who take a little bit more damage, play a little bit more aggressively, or you're trying to complete an objective very quickly, whatever it may be, or get to or away from certain things very quickly. Now, one other special tip that I'll give you here is that it will automatically recharge those 2 shots that you get anytime you pick up a Reactech box. And so you're going to want to utilize both of your shots. And then if you hit the Reactech button or a Reactech box, it'll give you another shot. So we can run straight to the subzone if we need to. By the time this expires, we're gonna be on the other side, right? And so now I pick those up, and we have 2 more of them. So it's a really, really cool, useful tool, and one that I think is going to pay dividends the more that you use it, especially in solo incursions and in Maelstrom. Very, very underrated option. So those are my recommendations. First of all, don't ever bring the ammo satchel, and then everything else is just going to depend on what operator you're bringing, what your team needs to accomplish, and what kind of play style you use. So just remember that at all times. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again for the next video.